for initiating the Aviation Security Culture Week across India with an endeavor to raise awareness of aviation security with a commitment to make air travel safe for all. Remember, security is everyone's responsibility. See, safe, secure.
ये लैपटॉप किसके हैं?
तो यहाँ की
नहीं ज़रूरत नहीं है, थोड़ा निकाल सकते हैं। अच्छा वो रहेंगे इधर ही। हाँ? Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I kindly request everyone to settle down, please. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's panel discussion on a topic of critical importance, cybersecurity in civil aviation. As we all know, civil aviation is a cornerstone of global connectivity, enabling people and goods to move across the globe with unprecedented speed and efficiency. However, with this incredible capability comes a significant responsibility to safeguard our systems against ever-evolving cyber threats. The stakes are high and the challenges are complex. Today's discussion will delve into the multifaceted nature of these challenges, from securing air traffic control systems to protecting passenger data and ensuring the integrity of aircraft communication systems. Our esteemed panelists, who bring a wealth of experience and expertise from various sectors within the aviation and cybersecurity fields, will provide valuable insights into both the current landscape and future directions. We'll explore the latest advancements in cyber defense, share best practices, and discuss strategies for collaborating among industry stakeholders to enhance our collective resilience. This is not just about addressing immediate threats, but also about anticipating future risks and innovating to stay ahead. I encourage each of you to actively engage, ask questions, and share your perspectives. The solutions to these pressing issues will emerge from our collective wisdom and collaboration. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to a stimulating and informative discussion. So let's get started. Now I would like to invite and welcome our esteemed panelists onto the stage. First, I would like to invite Mr. Karandeep Singh, Head of IT Service Operations, Security and Cloud Engineering at Indigo. Mr. Singh has extensive experience in IT management and infrastructure. Karandeep currently serves as the Head of IT Service Operations, Security and Cloud Engineering at Indigo. Mr. Singh has a comprehensive education background. He obtained an MBA in Marketing and Finance from the Institute of Management Technology, Ghaziabad, in the year 2005. Mr. Singh has a strong background in IT infrastructure and operations with expertise in areas such as security, network engineering, and cloud technologies. Now I invite Mr. David Waller, Representative, European Union Aviation Safety Agency. Mr. Waller is the EASA representative in Southeast Asia. He has worked for European Union Aviation Safety Agency since 2004, holding positions in technical training, international cooperation, accident investigation, and strategic development. Previously, he worked for the Aerospace and Defense Industries Association of Europe, and prior to that, for BAE Systems on the Eurofighter Typhoon. He holds a master's degree in both engineering and business administration. Now I call upon Mr. Naveen Kumar Singh, Director General, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, NCIIPC. Mr. Naveen Kumar Singh is currently the Director General, NCIIPC, which is the national nodal body for identification and protection of the CII in the country. Mr. Singh is a BTech in Computer Science from IIT Kanpur. He has worked as the nodal officer for cybercrime in Jharkhand during the years 2017 until 2020, where he developed a proactive response mechanism for tackling cybercrime, for which he was given the FICCI Smart Policing Award. He has also contributed in the establishment of the Crime and Criminal Tracking System, CCTNS, for Jharkhand Police, development of website, social media policies, and citizen-centric services. Now I call upon Dr. Muktesh Chanda, Indian Police Service. Dr. Muktesh Chanda is a retired Indian Police Service officer and is currently working as a special monitor for cybercrime and artificial intelligence at the National Human Rights Commission. He was also the Special Commissioner, Technology Management and Project Implementation for Delhi Police. He graduated in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from Delhi University with a distinction. He has written a number of articles on cybercrime and related topics, which has been published in various prestigious journals and newspapers. Now I invite Mr. David P. Pekoske. Mr. Pekoske is the Administrator for Transportation Security Administration since the year 2017. He was the Commissioner on Cyberspace Solarium Commission that developed a consensus on a strategic approach to defending the United States in cyberspace against attacks of significant consequences. He is a recognized expert in crisis management, strategic planning, innovation, and aviation, surface transportation, and maritime security. In addition, he has been twice awarded the Homeland Security Distinguished Service Medal. Mr. Pekoske holds a Master's of Business Administration from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a Master of Public Administration from Columbia University, and a Bachelor of Science from the US Coast Guard Academy. Now I invite Ms. Kavita Jalan, Indian Police Service, Deputy Director General, Bureau of Civil Aviation Security. Ms. Jalan is a distinguished gold medalist in Bachelor's and Masters of Law. Ms. Jalan joined the Indian Police Service in 2003. The first 15 years of her career was spent in handling the left-wing insurgency in the jungles of Orissa. She joined the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security in 2021. She has been awarded the Indian Police Medal for Meritorious Service in the year 2023. She has developed special interest towards detection of cybercrime cases and was instrumental in arresting foreign nationals in the Black Dollar fraud case, which is the first of its kind in Orissa. Ms. Jalan played a very key role in the preparation and implementation of the Composite Action Plan against beliefs and practices of witchcraft in Odisha, and contributed immensely in the drafting of the Odisha Prevention of Witchcraft Act 2013. She is currently serving as the Director General at the Deputy Director General at the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security. She is one of the members in the International Civil Aviation Organization Aviation Security and Cyber Security Panel from the Republic of India. Now I invite and welcome Dr. Sanjay Bahal, Director General, Computer Emergency Response Team. Dr. Sanjay Bahal is currently the Director General, CERT in Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India. Dr. Bahal has 4 decades of experience in the information communication and technology industry. His background includes broad and deep skills and knowledge encompassing unique experiences in technology, business, global trade, and policy in the private and public sectors, along with academic, public policy, and legal areas. Now I invite and welcome Mr. Srinath Prasad, Chief Information Officer, Delhi International Airport Limited. Mr. Prasad is a result-oriented CIO with proven record of 29 years, including 17 years in aviation, industry delivering innovative solutions and business models that drive process improvements, reduce costs, and improve customer satisfaction. Adept in developing and executing successful strategies that drive technology solutions to support business performance. He's played a key role in conceptualization, technology identification, policy design, stakeholder buy-in for the most successful DigiYatra implementation across the country. Now I invite Dr. Pawan Duggal, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and Chief Executive, Artificial Intelligence Law Hub. Mr. Duggal is a cybersecurity consultant for the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. While practicing as an advocate in the Supreme Court of India, Dr. Pawan Duggal has made an immense impact and has an international reputation as an expert and authority on cyber law, cybersecurity laws, cybercrime laws, artificial intelligence, law and e-commerce law. Dr. Pawan Duggal is the founder and chairman of International Commission on Cybersecurity Law. He is also the president of cyberlaws.net and has been working in the pioneering area of cyber law, cybersecurity law, and mobile law. Mr. Pawan is also heading the Artificial Intelligence Law Hub and Blockchain Law Epicenter. Dr. Duggal is regular on the lecture circuit. He has spoken to over 3,000 conferences, seminars, and workshops in the last 2 decades and has lectured extensively in select law colleges. As a writer, he has made his mark with 199 books on various aspects of the law in the last 20 years. And he today is the moderator for the panel discussion. Now, I kindly request Director General, Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, Mr. Zulfikar Hassan, Indian Police Service, to please come on stage to welcome our distinguished panelists. Thank you, sir. Yes. Mr. Karandeep Singh, Head of IT Services, Operations, Security, and Cloud Engineering at Indigo. Mr. David Waller, Representative, European Union Aviation Safety Agency. Mr. Naveen Kumar Singh, Director General, NCIIPC. Dr. Muktesh Chandar, Indian Police Service. Mr. David P. Pekoske. Ms. Kavita Jalan, IPS, Deputy Director General, Bureau of Civil Aviation Security. Dr. Sanjay Bell, Director General at CERT. Mr. Srinath Prasad, Chief Information Officer, Delhi International Airport Limited. Dr. Pawan Duggal, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and Chief Executive, Artificial Intelligence Law Hub. Now I request DG BKS to kindly address the authors gathering with his inaugural speech.
Honorable guests, respected panelists, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to all. It is a great honor to stand before you today as we address one of the most urgent and vital challenges in modern aviation, cybersecurity. The civil aviation sector serves as a lifeline for global connectivity, economic prosperity, and international cooperation. Yet, we also face an escalating number of cyber threats that can undermine the very foundation of this global network. Our aircrafts, airports, and air traffic control systems are now deeply intertwined with complex networks, making them increasingly susceptible to cyber attacks, which are real, evolving, and potentially catastrophic. Attacks targeting critical aviation infrastructure have occurred globally, resulting in serious operational, financial, and reputational damage. Hence, cybersecurity is no longer an option, it is a necessity. To ensure that India's aviation sector remains resilient and secure, the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security has played a pioneering role in promoting and strengthening cybersecurity in civil aviation. BCAS has been issuing a series of AFSEC orders which form the very foundation of cybersecurity compliances in civil aviation across India. These orders ensure that all stakeholders adhere to stringent cybersecurity protocols. BCAS is not just a regulatory body. It is also an enabler of knowledge and skill building in the domain of aviation cybersecurity. Our training programs have reached so far more than 1,800 professionals from across the aviation ecosystem. We are also excited to announce the upcoming BCAS online cybersecurity in civil aviation course, conducted in collaboration with Dr. Pawan Duggal, scheduled for the 11th of September 2024. This course is expected to be attended by over 8,000 aviation professionals from India and abroad, making it the world's single largest collective effort to upskill aviation ecosystem workforce and prepare them to tackle the sophisticated cyber threats that loom over the aviation sector. The BCAS has been at the forefront of promoting cybersecurity in civil aviation, not only through policy and compliance, but also through education, awareness, and skill building. We firmly believe that empowering professionals with knowledge is the first line of defense against cyber attacks. By fostering a culture of security awareness and ensuring that cybersecurity is integrated into the very fabric of our aviation operations, we can build a robust and resilient aviation ecosystem. Our focus must be multidimensional. First, proactive defense. We must continue to enhance our cybersecurity infrastructure by leveraging artificial intelligence, machine learning, and real-time threat detection systems. Second, resilience of critical infrastructure. Ensuring that cybersecurity measures are embedded in the design and function of critical aviation systems is non-negotiable. Third, training and awareness. Continuous training will ensure that every member of the aviation ecosystem understands their role in safeguarding against cyber threats. In today's interconnected world, cyber threats transcend borders, and so must our response. Aviation is inherently global, and securing this vital industry requires global cooperation, information sharing, and collaboration between governments, regulatory bodies, and private sector players. It is imperative that we work together to build a cyber-resilient aviation ecosystem, capable of defending against current and future cyber threats. BCAS is working closely with ICAO on cybersecurity issues at the international level. In conclusion, cybersecurity in aviation is not just about preventing attacks. It's about ensuring the safety and security of millions of passengers, the reliability of global supply chains, and the integrity of international commerce. We at BCAS remain committed to leading from the front in this mission. Thank you all for your attention. I look forward to the insights that our esteemed panelists will share today. Together, we can chart a path towards a more secure and resilient future for civil aviation. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Now I'll hand over the proceedings to Dr. Pawan Dugal, who will moderate the panel discussions. Thank you, Mr. Pawan.
Mr. Zulfikar Hassan, distinguished personalities, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. If there are 5 things that I want to look at in the horizon today on civil aviation, I find these 5 stars. Number 1, cybersecurity is now a prime concern because cyber criminals have all got together to target civil aviation. Number 2, cybersecurity is now no longer just a parochial concern. It's got national and international ramifications in terms of security, sovereignty, and integrity of nations as we go forward. Third, I see a huge regulatory gap between various stakeholders when I look at trying to make the civil aviation ecosystem more secure. Number 4, I find that there is a lack of a global cooperation on cybersecurity, and that needs to be strengthened. And finally, the 5th point, nobody is waiting for anyone. Artificial intelligence has arrived and now promises to be the single biggest headache for civil aviation ecosystem. Why? Because cyber criminals have now weaponized artificial intelligence to target critical information infrastructure. With these 5 distinctive thought processes that I see, I want to open this panel discussion. We have a collective brain power of the world together on the stage. And we have this remarkable galaxy of panelists. Just some housekeeping rules. What we will do is we will ask 1 question per panelist, and we'll be requesting the panelist to give the answer in 4 minutes. There'll be the first bell at 3.5 minutes, and the second bell at 4 minutes. And once we go through the first round of questions, that's the time I want to open up the panel discussion for questions, for interaction with the audience, and thereafter, let's take it on from there. To begin with, let me straight away jump into the deliberations. And my first question is to David Pekoski. Now, David, you are a recognized expert in crisis management and strategic planning. What, according to you, are the key policy strategies that US has adopted to defend critical information infrastructure, like aviation, against cyber threats? And how can your strategies be adopted globally by other stakeholders?
Sure. Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And to start off with the strategy piece, you know, when we looked at cybersecurity across the transportation system, not just the aviation system in the United States, but really the pipeline system, the rail system, airports, and air carriers, we were looking to accomplish 2 key things. One was to protect those systems, to build some cyber protections in place, and that was the initial focus of our efforts. The second part was to build resiliency, because we knew that no matter what we did, it was highly likely that some owner-operator of critical infrastructure in the country would have a cyber attack, and that cyber attack would be somewhat successful. So we wanted to provide the ability to quickly get back on the feet and to resume services to the public as best as possible. The other thing that we looked at the early onset was, as you mentioned, I mean, this is a vast area of operations for any major airline, any major airport, any major transportation system. And we knew that we didn't have the capacity inside the U.S. government to regulate every single owner-operator in that space. And so we were very careful and very surgical, if you will, in terms of which owner-operators we chose to regulate for cybersecurity. And what that basic calculation was is who is systemically critical to the provision of services for whatever service domain that you're looking at, and to be able to only focus on those initially, but for the rest of the owner-operators in the space, in the transportation move, was to still provide them information and to make sure that they had the most updated intelligence information to be able to do things on a voluntary basis. So there was a required piece for the most systemically critical, and then a voluntary piece for everyone else in the space. The approach that we took, in addition to not trying to regulate every single owner and operator, was to start out with the chief executive officers of the owners of critical infrastructure in the country. approach them for more resources to help protect their systems and to help build that resiliency, that the CEO knew the why and could provide those resources rather quickly. And that proved to be a very, very sound strategy at the outset, even though some people wondered why we were hitting at the very top of an organization before really getting into the technical areas of an organization for cyber. So in terms of a lesson learned, I would absolutely do that again, because I think that enabled us to get a faster run initially into providing those cybersecurity protections. The other thing that we looked at very carefully was, hey, should we regulate cybersecurity like we traditionally regulate against any threat that we face? Should we provide a very prescriptive series of measures that companies should take and then inspect them for their compliance with those measures? And we chose not to do that. We chose to take a departure from that approach, and instead we chose to use a performance-based system where we identified key cybersecurity outcomes and said to those owners and operators, you come back to us, submit a plan to us that tells us how you're going to achieve those outcomes. We will review that plan, we'll make modifications to it, and then hopefully ultimately approve that, and then that's the plan that we will measure you against. And so it was very tailored to companies with reference to national standards that we have for cybersecurity as a guideline, but they could come back and tailor their own plan based on achieving those outcomes. The last part, and I heard the bell, was to be able to go back, and this is the phase that we're in right now, is to go back and say, hey, we had these outcomes that you need to achieve, like, for example, you need to segment your networks and things of that nature. You have your plan, we've inspected against your plan. Is your plan working? Is it achieving that outcome and achieving that outcome to a satisfactory level? And so for us, that allows us to make sure that we have a very living regime in place that's not static, it's not fixed in 2021 or 2022. It changes, modifies, and gets stronger over the course of time. Thanks.
Thank you, David. I think that helps us get an overview from the American perspective. Can we have a round of applause? From the US, I want to go on to the European Union. David, you are here, you're representative of EASA. How does the European Union's approach on aviation cybersecurity compare with other approaches of other stakeholders or regulators globally? And what can other stakeholders learn from the EU experience?
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here. So some of our requirements will be the same. We've introduced a new requirement coming up, in particular focusing on organizations, part information security or part IS, that'll come into force in October 2026. And this will mandate organizations to have information security management systems. It'll mandate people to have training. It'll make sure that organizations have the necessary policies, processes to identify and manage risks, to detect upcoming security events, and to be able to respond and recover to such events. And these organization requirements actually apply to the national authorities in Europe as well. So each EASA member state has to have these capabilities. Then we also have standards linking to products, which are built into our certification specifications. Of course, the aircraft should really be the last line of defense. That covers aircraft, it covers engines, it covers parts and supply appliances. And then where maybe more of a difference to what I believe other regulators might have is in terms of information sharing, capacity building, and research, particularly the information sharing, because we have this regional level. We have a network of cybersecurity analysts in each EASA member state. We have a European Centre for Cybersecurity in Aviation, which facilitates information sharing. And if I could maybe encourage or suggest an approach which Europe could offer, it would be on this sharing of best practices, on threat intelligence, on security incidents. I think through this region, at regional level, can improve their level of cybersecurity. And this also leads to an optimization in terms of resources and sort of strengthens relationships as well through the benefits that this brings.
Fantastic. So that's the EU approach, and clearly they are interested in more information sharing of international best practices. So we've seen the US approach, we've seen the European Union approach, and from that I want to come back to India. And I can tell you India is doing some remarkable work in the area of cybersecurity. My next question is to the next panelist, Dr. Sanjay Behal, who is the Director General of Computer Emergency Response Team of India. So Dr. Behal, what are the most significant cybersecurity incidents that have impacted the aviation ecosystem in India? And how did certain actually respond to the same? And what, according to you, have been the key learnings that India has learned in this regard?
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon. And thank you, Pawan. As usual, you got us into a classroom, ringing the bells, and giving us a question paper and asking us to do the answers quickly. Having said that, from the Indian perspective, let me first of all say that the civil aviation sector is comprising of vast and interconnected ecosystem. It comprises of the ministry and its various organizations, the airport infrastructure service providers, and the airlines, etc. So when you talk about threats which have been seen, they can be emanating from any of these places. And that makes it very complex and tough. There are some basic things which need to be looked at and which normally get overlooked and cause incidents to occur. Things like basic phishing and spear phishing email which comes into the organization, causing compromise of credentials and thereby causing unauthorized access to the ICT systems. You have various applications which are connected through application program interfaces or APIs. And you have people who are trying to configure systems. So there are misconfigurations and there are issues in terms of security of APIs, which cause vulnerabilities, which then lead to data leakage and compromise of those data. And we've seen distributed denial of service attacks. And you did mention there's a need for global cooperation, etc. So I'm going to take this forum, and since we have someone from Europe here, we've seen servers being used in Europe, in European countries, for launching DDoS attacks. And there is a need for cooperation and there's need for doing a lot of work in that space where the challenges are. Then obviously one of the other areas is in terms of advanced persistent threats by various actors and gangs which are operating. Then of late, because of the evolving nature of attacks and crimes, there are things being in terms of ransomware. For example, in one of the entities, I'm not going to name them, about 4,000 machines were infected and down for about a week. As mentioned, creating a lot of operational damage. And last but not the least, what we've seen recently is the supply chain attacks, which impacted globally all the airline systems and various airports, etc., causing difficulties for passengers to travel, right? So that is the sort of threat landscape that you are dealing with. In terms of what CERT does in terms of response, etc., CERT coordinates for the complete incident response activities with the various stakeholders. It performs detailed analysis, looks at the gaps, root cause, etc., gives suggestions, etc. It also coordinates with the ISPs. In case there's a DDoS attack, it monitors the DDoS traffic, coordinates with them to ensure that we can mitigate the DDoS attacks. In case of leaks and of personal information, coordinates with the entities to make sure that content can be taken down. It provides threat intelligence well in advance so that the entities can take care of safeguarding themselves. We publish regularly the advisories based on what are the learnings so that others are not impacted. We also carry out mock drills and exercises to make sure that the organizations understand their tools, technologies, processes, people, how much they know, how much they do not know, and how they're going to safeguard themselves. We have empaneled 176 auditors to carry out various audits, and we also have, you asked about crisis management, we also have published a cyber crisis management plan in which organizations are supposed to drop their SOP, and then through these mock drills they can practice that. And the good part is in this cyber crisis management plan, it also covers about cyber terrorism, which is increasing these days in the airports, etc., and airlines. We are seeing this happening more and more through emails coming, etc. So what are some of the learnings? There's a need to improve continuous monitoring and also enhance detection and response capabilities. Third-party risk management needs to be seriously looked at, which is a gap area. A lot of new technology is introduced in this ecosystem, and they all want to go to market first. And the challenge is inadequate security testing and audits for these, which cause issues and challenges. Because of this ecosystem, we need strengthened collaboration, and periodic training of employees is a must. I think that gives you an overall perspective of what we are seeing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Behel. As somebody who is heading India's nodal agency on cybersecurity, you're doing a remarkable work. But India, apart from just focusing on the nodal agency on cybersecurity, has also got another approach of focusing specifically on critical information infrastructure. And when Mr. Naveen is heading as the DG of NCIIPC, he's doing a remarkable work in protecting India's crown jewels in terms of the critical information infrastructure. My next question to you, Mr. Naveen, you have been addressing a lot of these critical challenges in the critical information infrastructure space. Now, specifically in the context of aviation, how does NCIIPC deal with the aviation-related cybersecurity challenges, and what has been your approaches and responses so far?
Good afternoon, everyone. I would first like to thank BCS for giving us the opportunity to be here. As far as NCIPC is concerned, we are the statutory national nodal body for protection of all the critical information infrastructure in the country. In India, we have identified 7 critical sectors, of which transport is one of the 7 critical sectors, and within transport we have all modes of transport, where civil aviation for us is a major focus apart from the ports and the railways as of now. And our approach here is to first identify all the critical information infrastructure in the aviation sector, and then focus on its improving its cybersecurity posture and improving its resilience, because gone are the days when you can prevent all the attacks. So we need to build a lot of resilience, the capability to be able to recover from any such incidents, to be able to detect them as early as possible. So that has been our focus. And within the aviation sector also, in coordination with BCAS and the Ministry of Civil Aviation, we have been able to identify the critical information infrastructure within the aviation sector, starting with the air traffic control and all those important systems which are responsible for the operations of in the airspace. And then we have gone to all the transport operators, and then the priority would be to go to the airline operators. So we have fixed the priorities, and even within an important organization, which are your crown jewels and which are more important. So that identification is the first part where we have made a lot of progress, and we paid a lot of attention to this after we saw, as Dr. Bahal also mentioned, some of the persistent threat actors in the civil aviation sectors, and even in many of the most critical systems in the civil aviation, which the US recently issued an advisory regarding Bolt Typhoon, where the APT actors were maintaining persistence in their power and telecom systems, but we had seen it even in the civil aviation sector, which prompted us to respond very quickly, and we are happy to inform that the CI identification part is done, and now we are focusing on finding out the gaps. We do a risk-based approach. We try to find out the risk, and among all the available risks, which is the most important to be mitigated, and what are the possible options for mitigation, and what is the most cost-effective way in which the entities are able to mitigate the risk is something what we focus upon. We at NCIPC, we have cross-sectoral visibility, and we do a lot of work on identifying the threat actors and the kind of threats which the civil aviation is facing, and we do try to alert entities in advance in terms of the actual threats, and also tell them about the gaps in the cybersecurity which they need to address, both in terms of technology and even in terms of the peoples and the processes which they need to put in place. And we in NCIPC are trying to have a framework where once the systems are declared as protected systems or the critical information infrastructure, the top management of the entity becomes responsible also for its cybersecurity. Our experience has been that making the top management responsibility when it comes to CIA is something which works the most. So we have been trying to work towards building that kind of an ecosystem and that kind of a responsibility matrix, so that the top of the organization becomes responsible and starts thinking about cybersecurity, because once they start thinking about cybersecurity and we suggest the overall improvement of their risk mitigation, and once that is implemented, we see a lot of improvement in their cybersecurity and their ability to detect the threats early, to continuously monitor the threats and improve their resilience. So that has been our approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. That helps us understand the perspective of India from protecting its critical information infrastructure. So from protecting the crown jewels, I want to go on the direction of law enforcement agencies. And my next question is to the next panelist, Dr. Muktesh Chandar. Dr. Chandar, how do you see, in terms of the law enforcement agencies in India and globally, working with the civil aviation sector on cyber threats? And how do you actually bridge the gap between the law enforcement agencies and the aviation agencies in terms of cyber security? What are your thoughts?
First of all, thank you very much, Zulfi, my friend, for inviting me to this important conference. As per Indian IT Act 70A and 70B, there are two agencies on my left and right, NCIPC and CERTIN. And I'm glad to see NCIPC flourishing. I was the first founding director of NCIPC long back, and good to hear that it has progressed so well. And you know, I had made a presentation, but this is an extempore question being shot on me by Dr. Duggal. How many of you have seen Die Hard 4 movie? If you have not seen, take it as a homework and see it. That movie came in 2007, and we had the first cyber weapon deployed in 2010, a gap of 3 years. Now in aviation sector, as Dr. Duggal was asking about the law enforcement perspective, I'm very honest, not many such cases have come to notice. Most of them are like PII data, theft related. So we still have a Stuxnet type of thing happen in aviation sector. Of course, these incidents do happen, but nothing to do with the aircraft or steering of certain systems. As Dr. Bahal was mentioning about the ransomware, that has happened, but not targeted to the particular this thing. So coming back to the question once again, because otherwise don't want to deviate from that. We don't have a cyber crime treaty even today, and we have been struggling for a very long time that there should be a global cooperation under this UN treaty. So that important aspect is missing. what we deal with is mutual legal assistance treaty between various countries, and the cyber criminals situated in any part of the world are almost going scot-free. Even in India, when anonymous SMS, anonymous bank account and anonymous SIM cards are being used, they are difficult to trace. What to talk of an international level kind of thing. So first gap, serious gap is this international cybercrime treaty. The second one is that the access to the information required from various agencies. Now there are so many agencies, companies which are operating at a global level, and accessing that information on a real-time basis is difficult. Even to get a Gmail address, mobile number and the IP address of a person is so difficult. And when we talk of proton mail kind of totally anonymized, it's almost impossible. The proton mail doesn't even cooperate. So there are so many challenges in this field, but what I can say is that everyone here has spoken about the international cooperation in the field of cybersecurity. So is required for the cyber crime also. We have been noticing that cyber criminals are largely worried about money, and ransomware is part of that. But what we are missing here is the state-sponsored actors, or maybe the state themselves, who will try to hit upon a particular sector of economy. They have been doing it for power sector. What we have seen in Russia-Ukraine conflict, the cyber war between them started 2 months before, and we were monitoring that. So something like that may happen in aviation sector also, because that's a critical information infrastructure, and in an event of conflict or the state-sponsored actors trying to target a nation's aviation sector, that will be very catastrophic, and I'm sure all of us here are deliberating on various measures, but one simple thing, all the organizations involved here, are you certified ISO 27001? The first stake is this certification. If you are not, you're entirely missing the cybersecurity game altogether. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chandar. Now, clearly coming to the civil aviation ecosystem, the regulator, being the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, is a remarkable thought leader. And under the distinguished leadership of the Director General, Mr. Zulfikar Hassan, BCAS has been issuing various AVSEC orders. Now, my next question is to the next panelist, Ms. Kavita Jalan. Now, as BCAS, how do you ensure that civil aviation entities ensure compliance with your AVSEC orders, and you actually face challenges in enforcing compliance with these various norms that you have stipulated?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Aviation security is as critical as physical and personal security. BCS understands that, and BCS is responsible for setting aviation cybersecurity regulations and policies for industry partner, as well as our air traffic navigation service provider. For India, it is again a government agency. We are not only responsible for these, but we are also responsible to take steps to ensure that critical infrastructure, information and data systems are protected against any kind of cyber attack or threat. For this, we have developed and maintained a robust cyber regulatory framework, and this framework is based on cyber threat and risk assessment, and this assessment is perfectly aligned with our all risk approach towards aviation security, and cyber risk assessment is in addition to traditional threat to aviation, that is with terrorism. Having said that, it is important that our stakeholders should be aware of the regulations. Yes, we find many challenges in compliances of our regulations. Generally, we find that challenges lies with the small operators and small airports because of lack of technological advancement. We also find challenges because there is not that much skilled workforce available even with the bigger players of the field. There is lack of awareness there are awareness about the cyber crime by and large, but when we talk about cyber security in terms of aviation, definitely there is a need of enhancing awareness and skills of personals who are working for this. I was in the morning discussing with one of the panelists from Indigo and Dial also. Definitely there is a gap in understanding of regulation in between regulator as well as a stakeholder. BCS step towards ensuring aviation cyber security in India in 2023. Aviation aircraft security rules was passed. In that we have given a broad guidelines how to protect aviation from cyber threat. Following that, we have issued multiple guidelines in form of FSEC orders, circular. We have also started issuing advisories and alerts to keep industry updated and ensure that they are protected from any kind of potential cyber threat. I am also thankful to DG NCCIPC and DG Certain who are present here. We take their help in assisting industry partners in assessing, giving their technical assistance in identifying their CII and further declaring them as protected system. We have also developed a detailed guideline for reporting of cyber incidents. This is very important. Recently, worldwide, we have faced a challenge of when there was an outage in Microsoft software. India was also affected with that. We have established a robust regime, and we are also trying to educate, change the culture and mindset. Instead just reporting culture in field of aviation security also, like we are doing in terms of aviation security for cyber security also. As DG has already announced that we are also trying to upgrade the skills, make people more informed and aware, to make them informed, to enable them to take informed decision. Tomorrow, which is an important day for aviation, a very critical day being 11th of September, we are also hosting online platform course on cyber security, likely to be participated by more than 8,000 participants across the India. And this course is free of cost and followed by a certification. This is our small steps toward making everyone aware about cyber threat and challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So that's a remarkable perspective and thought leadership by BCAS. Now, in this panel, we've first gone to the international regulators. We've come to the Indian regulators on cyber security, on critical information infrastructure. We've listened to the perspective of law enforcement, and now we looked at the regulator's perspective. Now, after all this, I want to turn my eye to the industry so as to understand what are their perspectives. My next question is to you, Mr. Srinath, as the CIO of the busiest airport in India and the 10th busiest in the world. Now, what are the specific cybersecurity challenges that airports are facing, and how can they actually leverage technology for the purposes of protecting themselves against cyber threats?
Okay. Thanks to BCAS for having me here. As you have mentioned, Delhi is the largest airport and the 10th busiest airport in the world. And so is the magnitude when it comes to, in fact, the number of stakeholders who are working in this ecosystem. More than 100,000 employees across various entities do work, and in fact how much of equipment, how much of edge equipment is exposed in this particular space. All this adds to the complexity, and in addition to this, for the sake of passenger experience, airport can't exist on its own. There is a lot of data sharing among the entities. So all these things once again do add to the complexity of what you call as the cyber security. So over the many years, I would like to say that Delhi Airport, and thanks to the management, I would like to say the budgets that used to be allocated to cyber security, I would like to say pre-COVID and post-COVID, has gone up multifold. Thanks to this top-down approach and the sensitivity that is now being born none other than our management. And on top of it, we have, as mentioned by Muktesh ji, to start off with ISO certifications. Yes, we are certified on 27001. We are also certified on 20K. We are also certified on ISO 22301, nothing but best of the business continuity management. These are all at the certification stage. In addition to this, we have a strong cyber security wing that is at a very reporting directly to the management, and we have matured over the past many years. So probably I would like to say we have taken up the NIST framework, and 6 years back the assessment our GMR airports were in the range of close to around 2 out of 5. But today, after 6 years, we can say that we are 4 and 4.5 plus out of 5 scores. And we are matured to that extent that we have built our own ICDC. What it means? Integrated Cyber Defense Center. Because in an airport, you have not only IT, information technology, you have OT as well, operation technology, which is slightly associated but different from the IT, like boarding bridges, baggage handling system, airport ground lighting. All these are prone for, in fact, cyber security attacks. So how to ensure that these are also equally protected, because any one space is good enough for, in fact, exposing the entire, in fact, airport. So that's where this ICDC has been set up, and these are all the internal things, and nothing but our posture has gone up quite a bit, and we are now matured enough to share our learnings to, in fact, to the industry, and this is all what we are doing, in-house. But our efforts alone is not good enough at times. So along with, in fact, improving our, in fact, posture, we do collaborate, very strongly with, certain. We also, work very closely with NCIIPC. Thanks to NCIIPC, now, in fact, we are protected as such. And we are also working very closely with PICAS. I would just like to add, one example, in fact, so that how exactly we are working in collaboration with, all these, government bodies to ensure that, the airport is, well protected. You all are aware, I think, almost every one of you must be using this DigiYatra. I am one among the 3-member team, in fact, work closely with ministry to make it a reality. Now, close to 25,000 passengers are using this DigiYatra at our airport. But working with PICAS, we realized that, in fact, there is some in fact, some vulnerabilities with the e-gates. And once we went deep into the subject, we realized that this is something, in fact, the entire industry across the globe is having the same issue, vulnerability. Thanks, worked hand in hand with PICAS. We have used the latest, in fact, artificial intelligence and ML, in fact, systems, and ensure this anti-tailgating system was deployed for the first time. And probably, in fact, not only DigiYatra is one product, that we have given to the industry, but in fact, even this anti-tailgating solution is also something. So what I want to tell you is this is something, in fact, this is a war that there is no end to it. Always, in fact, we need to be 1 or 2 steps, above the attackers. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a practical-oriented perspective. I want to go to my last panelist today in the panel discussion, Karandeep. My question is, you've been working extensively in cloud. So what, according to you, are the benefits and challenges of migrating aviation operations to the cloud from a cyber security standpoint?
So good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, thank you so much, Vikas, and I'm humbled to be here. But before, I will give it in 2 parts. First part is, last week we had one internal session, and everybody asked, or one person asked, who's responsible for the security here? So can I ask the same question to the audience here? Who's responsible for security? So good answer. In that room, everybody pointed on me. That this team is responsible for security. So I think that's the point which I want to bring while we're talking about global cyber security and threats. This has come to our homes now. In everybody mobiles, we have mobiles, we are all using digital. Last week my wife got a call that some insurance policy is lapsing, please pay X and X amount and you will get X and X amount. And my wife becomes so happy, she called me. Have you done a policy on my name? I'm so happy for that you have done this, you've not even informed me. And she was happy to pay them. So I think while we are trying to protect global organizations, making rules and treaties, but people have reached our homes now. How would you protect that? So I think from our perspective, I think data and privacy is by design now. So whatever we do from data perspective, privacy perspective, it is by design. It is not about I. It is about power of we, which we talk about. It's the core values of the organization. It's about power of we. How can we combine each I into we? So when we become I to we, I think that's the power which we are getting from the cloud now. I'm very humbled to say that our entire digital infrastructure now runs on the cloud. So while we are giving wings to the nation, we are also now entirely based off the cloud. So by virtue of going out to the cloud, security doesn't get transferred to the cloud provider. It still becomes our responsibility. It's a joint ownership of security and controls with the cloud provider. And it's a transformation journey. When you move to the cloud, there are a lot of rules, lot of levers in place which will force you to innovate, force you to move out of your older operating system to a higher category of operating system. If your older systems are vulnerable to the system which you are running on your data centers, you can't move the same systems to the cloud. So from the security perspective, the cloud providers force you to move from the older system to the higher versions of the system which are vulnerability free. Correct? I think we've all discussed about a lot of vulnerability which is happening. So while you move to the cloud, there are a lot of benefits of moving to the cloud in terms of security by design. You can turn on any security in design, in few minutes. You can start WAF protection. We spoke about DDoS. We spoke about a lot of technologies here which can just be enabled on the cloud. But again, as I said, the security doesn't get transferred to the cloud. You have to get your own expert people to manage the cloud. And in terms of challenges, again, since everything is on the cloud, the recent incident of CrowdStrike which we see, so although you trust out, you move everything onto the cloud, but who manages the performance of the cloud? If something happens onto the cloud, you are dependent upon the provider. So it's a third-party risk assessment kind of thing which comes, correct? Then you have to build your case on multiple clouds, which is a hybrid cloud provider. So I think about how do you want to design and how do you want to run from the cloud. While cloud gives you a lot of benefits in terms of data and privacy, and as we discussed, the passenger data is very critical. It is all stored onto the cloud infra. So from the privacy perspective now, some DPTP is also coming, and we also comply to global regulations like GDPR. So there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of features on the cloud you can just enable on the cloud. But end of the day, you have to do your own regular audits, regular risk assessments, so that whatever is there on the cloud, you are able to protect the customer data onto the cloud. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we've heard all the panelists today in the panel discussion. One thing is very clear. The world is bleeding. As per one estimate, the world lost more than $6 trillion to cyber security breaches in 2023. But that's not stopping. By the end of 2024, we are expecting that the world is likely to lose more than $8 trillion to cybersecurity breaches. And this figure is going to go up to $10.5 trillion by the end of 2025. So clearly in this ecosystem, cybersecurity is a common shared heritage concern that everybody has to work on. We are all links in this big chain, and the chain is as strong as the weakest link. Therefore, we have to make sure that we do not become the weakest link in the chain. At this juncture, I want to open up the panel discussion to any questions, any viewpoints, any thought processes. We all have a hand. Can we have a mic there, please? Can somebody in the team please give the mic? Ma'am, can you please introduce yourself and your question, and to which panelist is your question addressed to?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ramya. I am from BCAS. So my question is to the Administrator TSA. Hello, sir. So this is about the recent global Microsoft outage that happened. I want some context on how it has impacted the civil aviation in USA, whether there was any crisis management system in place, and whether that management system was able to do some damage control. Was it effective? Thank you.
No, thank you. And yes, there was a crisis management system in place, and this is one of the things that we are learning more and more about as time goes on. And it's not that we're learning about crisis management, but we're learning about crisis management as it relates to a cybersecurity attack. We've had a number of situations in airports or with air carriers where it does result in a physical manifestation of a loss of service, sometimes sustained for a period of time. And part of our regulatory regime is to ensure that there's a cyber incident response plan in place by that owner and operator. And then we do a series of tabletop exercises to ensure that, hey, should something happen, are the leaders of, in the case of an air carrier, the CEO, an airport, the CEO, and the local leadership, if it's a municipal airport, the city manager, for example, or the relevant federal agencies, are we ready to be able to explain to the public what happened and how we've built resilience so that we can bring service back as quickly as we can. And so that's a key metric that we use when we look at the implementation of our cyber security requirements overall. The other piece of this that's obvious, I think, to pretty much everybody, but sometimes when you look at a large organization, it takes a while to understand how to stay ahead of this, and this is social media. What we found in a number of the TTXs that we've done is oftentimes the entity will be relying on traditional forms of communication to tell them what's occurring, where you can see from social media feeds right away that there has been some disruption in service, and you get a pretty good idea of the extent of that. And so from our perspective, we've collectively learned an awful lot as we've seen some of these ransomware attacks. We just recently had one at a US airport, see how we're able to respond to that, and importantly, to ensure that the public, the traveling public, has confidence that collectively between the government agencies, between the owners and operators of critical infrastructure and the service providers, that we can get that service back up and running as quickly as we can, and that they know that we have a plan in place and we have mitigations that we've already taken that have been successful. I would say that this whole area of work is one that we just need to recognize right away that we're all going to be learning about this. We're going to be learning better ways to be able to address it. The key is, and I think several of my fellow panelists have mentioned this, is that we share that information, share those learnings going forward so that we don't repeat the same issues over and over again. Lastly, I think it's important for owners and operators of critical infrastructure, whether it's a pipeline system, a rail system, an airport, to have an understanding of the context of the threat. And so, one of the things that we have put in place in the United States for a good number of years now, and it's really proven its benefit, particularly in some of these more widespread attacks that we've seen, is the ability for the chief security officer of a piece of critical infrastructure to have a classified security clearance and to get regular security updates, so that when something happens, it's very, very helpful to be able to say, oh, I heard about something that might be similar to this in a briefing that I had a couple of months ago. Could this be related? And kind of connecting the dots a little bit based on pre-established information that we've collectively provided. And a key part of that, from an industry perspective, is there's an awful lot of information that industry holds that's hugely beneficial to the government to understand the business context within which things are working. So I would say in summary, overall, this is entirely a team sport, and we all need to be contributing to it, learning from it, and be willing to be humble about it too. I would say as the leader of a U.S. regulatory agency, I don't know all the answers. I don't think any of my industry partners know all the answers, but collectively, we're going to be a heck of a lot smarter than we would be individually. So working together very much, to me, is the key to the future in all of this.
Thank you. In fact, building on that, India has done some remarkable step forward. India has mandated almost all stakeholders in the civil aviation ecosystem to put in place reasonable security practices and procedures. And if you don't put that, you get exposed to legal liability. So as a lawyer, I'm seeing a new tsunami coming in of litigations in India, globally, where the civil aviation ecosystem stakeholders will now be sued damages for monies. And it'll be a new chapter where your exposure to your reputation, goodwill, standing could be pretty much prejudicial in the coming times. So very interesting to see, but happy to open up the session to any other questions. Anyone has any question from any specific panelists? Well, I think everybody seems to be quiet. Well, in this regard, I know lunch is waiting for us, but since we have this collective brain power on civil aviation, cyber security on this panel, I want to come back and ask each of the panelists, what do they think about AI? There's so much of buzz about AI, but is it really that big of kind of a scare, or is it something much deeper in the horizon later? How much should the aviation stakeholders be more prepared to deal with these challenges of artificial intelligence, and what needs to be done? Happy to hear the perspectives from anyone in the panel. Maybe, David, we can begin with you from European Union. Are you doing something on AI specifically?
Yes, so we have AI in aviation is, of course, a whole topic in itself. EASA is developing an AI roadmap. It's now at version 2. It's been published. But that doesn't contain a specific cybersecurity component. It's more about how do we certify aircraft that use AI. In terms of cybersecurity, AI is clearly that can be used by threat actors. As such, though, in terms of the global approach that we need to take, organizations need to take, people need to take, it is a weapon we need to be aware of, but it doesn't fundamentally change the way we need to operate. So, of course, we need to be aware of AI, the impact it can bring, the angles of attack that it brings forward. But in terms of, does that mean we need to completely rethink the way we address cybersecurity? Fortunately, no.
Fantastic. Dr. Bell, do you really see AI as your next big threat on the cybersecurity horizon?
I think AI will be a next big threat. Just want to add, we are limited by our own brains and the way we think. Did you imagine 9/11 will happen? No. Did you think of that use case? No. Can we think of all the use cases for AI? Probably not as yet. And hence, I think it will be a threat until we are able to understand it in much more detail.
Mr. Naveen, what do you think? How can we go forward for international cooperation? Because almost all panelists are talking about more collaboration, more sharing. How can we actually go in specifically in terms of protecting critical information infrastructure?
I would say the international collaboration has to do with more sharing and building frameworks which, to the extent possible, I don't know how much can it be enforceable, but the more frameworks which are for the common good, those are the two major building blocks for international cooperation.
And Ms. Kavita, do you think public-private partnership is an important thrust area for BCAS in civil aviation?
Civil aviation cyber front?
Civil aviation cybersecurity?
Of course. As we have discussed that AI is coming big way and our screening equipment are becoming digital, and AI has become opportunity as well as challenge also. And with this, we require more and more collaboration with our industry partners, OEMs, so that we will have security built in design and our systems are protected once we are procuring them. Not after procuring, we will go after the security. This is very important that operators who are employing the technologies and OEMs who are developing those technologies are aligned with the policies of regulators.
Fantastic. Dr. Muktesh Chandra, your viewpoints on how can law enforcement be more prepared to deal with aviation cybersecurity?
See, in my capacity as a special monitor for cybercrime and AI, that is my designation in NHRC. I'm studying the role of AI in cybercrime, and I've been visiting various states, police organizations, as well as forensic science laboratory. Now, what we see, what Karan was mentioning was not a cybercrime itself. It's a fraud being played. But when the money gets disappeared within fraction of seconds, that is where AI can be used by the law enforcement agencies, that on a real-time basis, you keep track of these criminals and the money transactions so that it can be stopped. Today, for doing that, it needs a human intervention. But AI can do that for you because it's real-time, and the moment 1930 call is made and certain entries are made, all accounts are frozen automatically, all transactions are reversed. That is where AI can play a big role. And the second is the forensic science labs have to get prepared with AI tools. You can fight AI crime with AI only. So that's even a nascent stage. For example, I met Director FSL Delhi, and they're thinking on these lines. So I'm sure you can't stop AI revolution. You have to get prepared for it. The police organizations have so much of data with them all over the country. We can use that AI tools to analyze those data and start working on a collaborative model within India itself. Today, victim is at one place, the bank account is at the second place, and the criminal is at the third place, and the money getting withdrawn from ATM machine at the fourth place. Now, these can be all coordinated by AI on a real-time basis.
Srinath, my question to you, how can industry collaborate better with regulators, the public sector entities?
Yeah, in fact, in my earlier narration, I mentioned, in fact, how collaboratively we identified, one of the vulnerabilities and, ensure that, in fact, we use artificial intelligence, based, in fact, tools to overcome, the drawbacks of vulnerability. And in addition to this, I mentioned that the ICDC, while, in fact, we have set up, in fact, our own framework, we work very closely with, in fact, certain, right, and as well as, in fact, NCIAPC. And because one thing is, the more the digitalization, the more, in fact, threat, in fact, is likely to be, in fact, in front of us. And one thing is compelling, while AI usage as part of, in fact, cyber security is no more optional, because it is already being extensively used, on the other side. So we have to extensively, in fact, foray and, use. I can tell you that already, not only at the back end, even at the front end, at every edge level, right, at every edge device level, to, in fact, to the entire, back end, with the best of the practices, with the best of the frameworks. I think a combination of all these things, in fact, will ensure that this security is in place and, gives more confidence for the passengers.
Thank you. And Karan, airlines, what can they do to make this Indian civil aviation ecosystem more secure?
So while I think security... Hello?
Yeah, it's heard.
Hello? So I think while we follow all the guidelines from CERT and national infrastructure, but I think AI from the business perspective is doing wonders for us. So from that side, we have launched our 60 chatbot through which you can book a ticket. So I think while we book ticket through all these chatbots, we have to ensure that that data is properly secured and governed. So from that perspective, I think we need all the regulations, and we try to put all the regulations in place so that the data is highly protected there.
Fantastic. Incidentally, BCAS has now come up with new directives on artificial intelligence, so it will be interesting to see. Well, I'm looking at lunches waiting for us, but before we finally go, I just want to request each of my panelists to give their final comments in 30 seconds as to what's their final message to this audience. Let me begin with you, David.
No, thanks.
Your mic, can we?
Here we go. Okay, thanks. That doesn't count against my 30 seconds.
No, it doesn't.
No. Hey, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And one of the key things from my perspective, and I think it relates to AI to tie the last segment into this, is this stuff doesn't need to be a mystery. And managers at all levels need to be much more conversational on cyber. on cybersecurity, on AI, understand the capabilities, understand the risks. And we just can't keep using a word and not have the intellectual curiosity to dig into it and understand it better. Thanks.
Thank you. David, your final 30 seconds.
Thank you. Yes, I think the just to reflect that a part of the challenge is awareness. Aviation is very much a system made up of systems, and really across the board, all actors, whether they be regulators, industry, suppliers, greater awareness of this threat and more organized approach needs to be had. So in the context of the ministerial conference tomorrow, I think that's some key message that we should promote to the top, that this is not some niche topic anymore. It really is threat number one.
Thank you. Dr. Sanjay Bahel, your 30 seconds.
So due to the evolving nature of cyber threats, there's a need to focus on basics, which will help address the 80-20 rule. Organizations will be protected, and I would urge all to be connected with Certain for getting cyber threat intelligence, also for mock drills and tabletop exercises, advisories and alerts.
Thank you. Mr. Naveen Kumar Singh, your 30 seconds, final recommendations.
I would say we need to really increase the level of awareness of for mainstreaming cybersecurity in civil aviation. That is the need of the hour, and all the stakeholders need to work together to ensure security by design. We really need to focus on supply chain security and diversify the sources to reduce the risks, and the action should be proportionate to the risk so that we don't unnecessarily pass on the cost to the flyers.
Thank you. Dr. Muktesh Chandra, your final 30 seconds.
Cyber security is not technology alone. It's a multidisciplinary subject with human factor. Organizational aspects are very important. It doesn't come free of cost. It needs budget and resources. It's a top management responsibility. And like GDPR in India, DPDP Act is coming. So anyone who is dealing with the PII data, be prepared for heavy penalties, and ultimately education awareness, and finally the compliance regime. We are still missing the compliance regime. So once that comes, and ultimately everyone has to, like road safety, culture of cyber security is important in every organization.
Thank you. Ms. Kavita Jalan, your 30 seconds.
Follow cyber hygiene, promote and change culture of reporting, raise awareness, share best practices, and enable everyone and enhance their capabilities and capacities. Thank you.
Thank you. Srinath, your final 30 seconds.
Yeah, while each entity is in Vietnam is focusing a lot on cyber security, and in addition to that, that is coupled with a lot of collaboration among the entities. I would still believe that the responsibility of cyber security is with the individual. Whomsoever it is, whether it is an employee or a passenger, the do's and don'ts. I think awareness of what needs to be done and what not to be done. I think that is something in Vietnam which I request every one of us need to pay attention.
Thank you. Karan, your final 30 seconds.
Yeah, two important words, which is zero trust. So zero trust means don't trust anybody. If the call is coming from your family member, coming from your boss, coming from your junior, coming from your son, coming from your daughter, think how, we have seen people sitting at home, but you're getting calls from some other, hostel that, your son has got something, and you get into that social engineering trap. So please, if you get email, you get WhatsApp, you get video call, just don't trust anybody. Follow the zero trust principle and use to figure it out if that is a genuine call or it's not a genuine call. Thank you.
Thank you. That actually sums up what our distinguished panelists have been thinking about and ruminating about different aspects of cybersecurity. Ladies and gentlemen, we are from the land of India. We are from the land of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi once said, I want my home with all the 4 windows in all the 4 directions open, so that the winds from all the 4 directions can come in and go ahead and bring along with them the scent of the different directions. I think cybersecurity is something similar. We have to realize that cybersecurity is not just a lip service paradigm. Cybersecurity is a way of life, and post-COVID-19, we have already entered into a new era This is the new cyber world order era where three things are becoming absolutely imperative. Number one, cybercrime will be our daily companion. Number two, cybersecurity breaches will be the new normal. And number three, states and governments will become more powerful. With these three elements coming in, it's no strange fiction that we have already begun to start seeing the emergence of cybercrime as a service coming in. The golden age of cybercrime has arrived, and now with cyber criminals using AI extensively, targeting critical information infrastructure, including civil aviation, is going to be the next target. Hence, everybody of us have to contribute in making the civil aviation ecosystem more secure, more robust, more resilient, more reliable, and we have to be constantly on the alert. This is a new world we have actually woken up to, where distrust and mistrust will have to be inculcated in our mindsets as we go forward and go ahead and deal with various challenges that cyberspace brings across. I want to take this opportunity to thank all my distinguished panelists for sparing your valuable time, for being with us this afternoon and sharing with us their distinctive perspectives. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being such a lovely audience. Thank you. And with that, it's over to the organizers.
Thank you, Dr. Duggal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to announce that this session is being live streamed on YouTube channels. And now at this moment, we have about more than 2,500 viewers. Now I request DG BKS to kindly come on stage and hand over the mementos to our distinguished panelists. Mr. Karandeep Singh. Mr. David Waller. Mr. Naveen Kumar Singh. Dr. Muktesh Chandar, IPS. Mr. David P. Pekoske. Ms. Kavita Jalan, IPS. Dr. Sanjay Bahl. Mr. Srinath Prasad. Dr. Pawan Dugal. Now I request the DG for the group photograph, sir. distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I, on behalf of Director General, Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, thank you all for your participation. Now I request you all to join us for lunch.
We will not, but at most, probably within a minute, we'll come to know that in fact important organ is missing. Agree?